I'm Ariana Grande.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Erivo.
And you're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Visit bpm.fm to discover more.
There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. It's been a few months since we wrapped up working with the Perelman Performing Arts Center reimagined production of Cats called Cats the Jellicle Ball, where we brought you a series of episodes during the run, which ended on September 8th. I don't know about you all, but I can't stop thinking about the production, so I figured it's time for another episode. So she played Jellylorum during the final few weeks of the production. So welcome, Jenny Mollet, and thank you for joining me.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I am excited because I've not talked to anybody from the cast that was in that, like, kind of added at the very end, because there was this like break where there was a couple more weeks before the third extension, I think, and you got to come in for Jellylorum. So I want to get to what that experience was like kind of coming in later, but I want to start first with your history with Cats, because this was a very different production of Cats. But what was your history with Cats before this production?
I mean, my history to Cats was little to none. I mean, of course, I knew the top hits, and of course, advertisements, and especially, being in the theater community for most of my life, I've had, multiple people being parts of various productions, whether it be tours on Broadway, revivals, and all that stuff. So, but I never got to see a full-fledged production of it, or even the movie musical that happened a couple of years ago. So when I first joined, it was all kind of relatively new. And then especially being a part of with a new concept, it was a total whirlwind. But of course, I knew the imagery of the traditional cats, being in the meow meow feline looks and the face paint and everything.
So I want to hear a little bit about what it was like joining at that point in the production, because at this point, the show's been on, already extended, running, super successful, and had kind of a lot of the same cast. And there's probably 4 or 5 of you that came in for that last run. But what is that experience like coming in when there's a lot of the rehearsals and legwork has already been done, and you get to kind of come in and join partway through versus being there at the very beginning? Because especially with Cats, there's such story behind each character. And in this production, there's even more story when you have the ballroom elements. It's such a different experience. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what that was like for you.
Yeah. So actually, my story is quite interesting because, so not many people know this. I did the workshop before Cats premiered at the Perelman Center downtown, and so I was playing Jellylorum there during the last iteration of the workshops, and and a lot of the people who I did the show with were part of that workshop as well. So it was really cool to kind of dig deep, I should say, into the roles and mess around and see what works, what didn't work, et cetera, et cetera. And then I got the offer to do Jellylorum when it first premiered back in June. But then, unfortunately, I couldn't do it because I ended up getting sick. And so, of course, I wish I could do both. I was like, I'm willing to do double duty. But, that's not possible. And, of course, I'll be spreading myself too thin. And then fast forward to when they announced the third extension, that's when they asked me to come back. And somehow magically, with 6, we were able to make something work, and I was able to join for the last couple of weeks. But so it was a really intense but such a fulfilling experience, because like I said, I was with pretty much the OG crew from the workshop, plus with the new people. So I got to, see the fresh faces, and also, see everyone put their own personal spin on each role. And I think that's something so beautiful about the Jellicle Ball. Like, yes, there's the framework of each role and, let's say staging and choreography, but it's also catered to each other with such individualism, because not everyone is the same. So, my Jellylorum is different to Shireen's Jellylorum in a sense. So, Yeah, so it was a very intense process. Like as soon as I got the word that I was going to be doing it, I jumped right into rehearsals. I technically learned the show in like 2 days.
Yeah.
And then before I knew it, we were doing the invited dress rehearsal, which was our first, quote unquote, public appearance after that week off, because during that week we were rehearsing the new people. Mm-hmm. And then after the invited dress, Thursday was my opening night, that following Thursday. And then we were doing it.
Off and running. So from the workshop, I mean, this was like a 4-year journey for this show. So I know there were so many iterations. Was there any major changes that like from the workshop to when you were rehearsing, they were like, ooh, I didn't expect that. And I'm thinking more like plot or story than the dance or this, the choreography. But was there anything that kind of surprised you from the workshop to going on stage to do it?
I think the main thing I was really intrigued by when I joined was, I think during my time during the workshop, I think we were focusing so much on the music and finding the balance between the choreography of ballroom and, traditional theater or Cats, quote unquote, choreography. That, at least from my side of things, we didn't really dive into too much of the plot or the scene work. And so it was really cool once I joined to see the fully fleshed out thing and, and seeing how the storyline made its way and how it kind of all connected and makes sense. So I think that was the biggest thing for me when I joined.
Okay, that's my favorite part to talk about. So when you got, back into the show and you're now doing this, what was the explanation for Jellylorum to you? Like, how did they tell you to embrace her character, especially the relationship with Gus?
So at least for my Jellylorum, I mean, again, everyone caters to their role differently, even, whether you're understudying or an onstage role. But what I took from my Jellylorum is that she is a jack of many trades. Like, she can do classical dance, classical voice, theater background, but then she can also vogue and she can also do runways. And, I call it the House of Opulence because I don't know if you noticed, but before Gus, the theater cat, the song that I sing, opulence is shown above underneath the screen when they do the slideshow. And so I kind of called it, I come from the House of Opulence, and Gus kind of runs it, and I'm the granddaughter of Gus, and also, the caretaker in a sense. And I think with the opulence in mind, I was like, you know what? Jelly can do this. She can do that. She can walk the runway. She can work it out. She can dance her heart out, whether it be voguing or death dropping her life and, ballet or musical theater type of styles. So, so that's kind of the main thing that I messed around with for Jellylorum. And then, of course, we fine-tuned it as we went along throughout the process. But that was, I think, the main thing for me.
What relationships did you kind of lean into most between the other cats or I guess characters? They're not cats in the show as much, but the other characters at Jellylorum, besides like the junior LaBeija and Gus is the main one. Like, that's the one that's well known, and you sing the song. But there's a lot of other moments, especially with the staging. You're kind of trying to think where, because I sat in front of the Jelly's like main area one time, and so you're staged with Mungo Jerry and Ripple Teaser at one point. You're staged with a couple other different characters. So did you lean into certain relationships beyond the Gus one?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to explore that side of things more, because one of the questions that I brought up during my rehearsal process is, how does Jelly fit into the ballroom world? Because in a sense, obviously up to interpretation, but I imagined House of Opulence. They're kind of one of the quote unquote major houses in the ballroom scene. And so she is technically ballroom royalty. But also Jelly is young. She wants to try new things. So how does she play a part in this gathering that's happening that night? So yeah, one of the groups of people that I would associate myself a lot with would be the House of Macavity, which would be obviously Macavity, Bombalurina, and Demeter. And funny enough, because, this is a queer show and we wanted to explore all sides of it, Bill and Jalen, they realized that there wasn't like a lesbian love connection. So one of the things that me and Demeter would play around with is like flirtation with one another and kind of a love connection there. You might not have seen it unless like you're like right there in front, but that was like something that we sometimes did. So if me and BB, who played Demeter, would like wink at each other or like hold each other a little too long, that was that. So that was another thing that we would mess around with as well. But I think also Jelly, in a sense, even though she comes from the House of Opulence, she's a floater, I want to say. Because like she wants, and I think that's also just me personally. I think I put a lot of myself into Jelly, and I like to be friends with everyone. I want to dabble in this and dabble in that. And so yeah, there's one part where I hang around a lot with Syllabub. And like you said, I hang out sometimes with Rumple Teaser. That's for a hot second, and Bustiver. So I'm like kind of all over the map in a sense. But yeah, I think the main group of people that I would try to associate myself with would be like the House of Macavity.
I love that point because Jellylorum is generally viewed as this like wholesome, like bright, shining character taking care of Gus, and your whole thing is leaning in to have a relationship with Demeter and spending all the time with the House of Macavity, which is generally the like house of crime and the doing the wrong. Like it just kind of like is a fun, it's like your alter ego almost of being able to spend time there. And I just love that. I've not heard the Jellylorum Demeter relationship, so I love this because anytime there's a new relationship, generally people latch onto them, which is fun, but also some of the artwork is amazing. So I'm waiting for somebody to draw a Jellylorum Demeter relationship, which hopefully will spark from this episode. I would love
that. Fan art, please.
Fan art. So if you draw one, send it to the two of us. So
absolutely.
I wanted to ask one more question kind of around that same piece, which is you talked about the houses and what you're walking. What was your familiarity with the ballroom culture coming into this show, even before the workshops? Because you're staged with a legend and an icon in Junior LaBeija. But I came into this show knowing very little about ballroom, learned a lot through doing these episodes, and was really and was fascinated by the whole thing. Because I only knew Paris is Burning. Like I kind of knew the overview of it. And I've interviewed so many of the cast, and it was so interesting to hear people who came from the ballroom culture versus people that came from theater culture and how those worlds intertwined. So what was your experience kind of between the two?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I come from primarily from a theater background, but I've always had a fascination and an appreciation for the ballroom culture. And so I always appreciated it from afar. I never really inserted myself in there. And, I mean, I also come from a predominantly dance background before I jumped into the theater world. So like, I trained in different styles such as, hip hop, street styles, all that stuff. And obviously that, those styles catered to itself to the ballroom scene. However, I never, like I said, took myself into the ballroom world. And yeah, so long story short, I think doing the workshop was my first actual introduction, like being physically present, putting myself into that world. And it was a whirlwind. I mean, it was really such a good experience to learn something new. And, I'm always about learning new things. So it was really cool to learn from the legends and experts who are so involved in that world. And so I mean, I still want to continue learning so much about that world. And, I now that I opened up that side of things, I definitely want to interject myself. And, who knows, maybe I would love to join a house at some point. If that happens, that would be great. But
are you not being recruited by some of your castmates?
Not quite yet.
All right, they're gonna have to get them onto that here.
Like I said, I think I think it's been mentioned. A lot of the ballroom culture, it's about community and showing up for them and also showing face. So I think in to do my part, I think I have to show up for classes and all that stuff. And from there, people will get to know me more. And that's how these bonds form. And they can be like, oh, this person can potentially be part of this crew. I mean, obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of the ballroom scene and how people get actually put into the houses. But, I think I know for the most part, or a lot of the times, it's like you have to show up to the classes or show up to these communities and to these families and make your mark and make your presence known in a sense.
Yeah, I love that. What was there any favorite moment or favorite part from either the workshop or your weeks on stage that kind of like stands out to you from this production?
Like I said, I think this whole process, whether it be the workshop or the show, was such a learning curve for me in various ways. Again, putting myself into a different world and culture even. And I think also there was a lot of self-growth as well. And I think no matter what production or whatever project I'm working on, there's always something to learn from. But I think with this particular show, there was a lot of self-growth and self-loving I learned. After the workshop, I think I had a lot more love for myself. And, I talk a lot about, owning your space and claiming your space and stuff. But I think in the past, I used to be to this day, to some sort of extent, like I used to be too humble and too kind at times. And especially with this industry, you want to put your best foot forward. But I think sometimes being too humble dims my light. And, being in a room full of stars, I see everyone as stars in that room. No one is going to dim your light except for you, or you can't let anyone else dim your light. And so when I rejoined the cast or the company, I always like to say, we're a bunch of stars. We shine brightly, but we're forming a galaxy here because it's such an ensemble piece. And so, yeah, I think it was a lot of learning for myself that I proved myself that I could learn a show in 2 days. And, kind of somewhat execute it pretty well after learning the show in 2 days. And, and that I can push myself leaps and bounds and that I am capable of doing so much and so much more.
I love that. No one's going to dim your light. I think that's a great way and a great motto to live by. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back for more of The Wrong Cat Died. I want to pivot to 6. Because I know you're an alternate in 6 right now, and we're recording from between shows, which is always really fun. I love 6. I've seen 6 a immense amount of times, and I think I recommend it to everybody. It's so fun. You are now the second person that I've had on that has been 6. I had Carrie Renee Fuller on, who played Jane Seymour and also played Grisabella. Mm-hmm. And so, which I think is probably a fairly common duo in the future here. We're going to see that combination more. But what I love to do is I want to cast the queens with cats.
Oh, gosh.
And so I have done this. I have my original notes. I actually have Carrie's votes as well, but I want to know your votes. So we're going to go through all 6 in order, and I want to hear which cat would you stick into that role based on kind of the personalities or just in general vibe.
Okay.
And so I did this based on actually the musical, not the Perelman Performing Arts Center version. Mm-hmm. But we can use both to help figure this out. So
yeah, I'm probably going to have to base it off of the Perelman production because I don't know really much about the previous.
And now I'm looking at it, I'm not sure how much my votes change from that, but there probably is a couple now that I'm looking at going, ooh, this might change. So, but let's just go through them. Let's start with Catherine of Aragon.
Catherine of Aragon, I mean, based off of my production, I want to say Demeter, just because the way BB, who played Demeter in our production, Aragon has such a ferocity, and BB has that same quality, and she just radiates on that stage, and doesn't, pardon my French, take any shit, but also really savvy, really witty, and I think Aragon might be Demeter.
Okay, so I originally said Old Deuteronomy purely on the not replacing me lyric.
True.
Carrie said Jenny Any Dots. But I'm trying to think. I don't remember her rationale for it. I'm trying to think if there's anybody from your show. I do like the Demeter. That does really fit. So I think that's a good addition with your production. Let's go to Anne Boleyn.
Oh gosh, Anne Boleyn is Skimbleshanks.
Skimbleshanks. Okay.
At least with Emma.
Because of Emma, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And at least when I cover Anne Boleyn, and like my Anne Boleyn is so mischievous, and I call her the Green Goblin. So I think, and Emma is so fun to be around with as well. Just backstage, it's never a dull moment. So I think Skimble for it.
That's so true. Emma Skimble is an Anne Boleyn. I originally said Bomb Ballerina, just because of kind of the devious nature, as much, especially like when you think about this McCavity song. Mm-hmm. Carrie said Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser, which I do actually think kind of does fit. Yeah, a lot. Okay, this is one of the only ones we agreed on, but Jane Seymour.
I either want to say Syllabub.
Ooh, I could see Syllabub in your production.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm a little bit biased because that's the only production of PAC that I know. But
we both said Grisabella.
Yeah, either Grizz or Syllabub. Those are my two choices as well.
Okay, what about Anna of Cleves?
Cleves, I either want to say McCavity.
Okay.
Or Mungo Jerry.
I like that. I still think it's Bust for Jones. I think Bust for Jones fits in both. I think Nora's Bust for Jones fits as of Anna of Cleves. I think the general Bust for Jones I'm more used to in the musical fits. Carrie said Mistopheles, which I still don't. I think it was just because of the magic of the. I don't think I can ruin. I don't think I can ruin 6 at this point. It's been around for a while, but yes, the tearaway surprise in that number. What about Catherine Howard?
Howie, I either want to say Bombalurina, or I think also McCavity could also work for Howie.
So I originally said Demeter, but Carrie said Tugger, and she sold me on Tugger. I think Tugger fits perfectly.
Tugger is a good fit.
Okay, and what about Catherine Parr?
Parr. I'm like so going by like personality as well. So I'm like,
I actually think mine still is right in both productions, and I have more of a reason for it now.
Which one are yours?
I think it's you. I think it's Jellylorum. And
you think it's Jelly?
I thought personality-wise it kind of fits, but then also you're both in blue throughout the whole thing. It does kind of just works. Carrie said Gus, but I think it falls in that same kind of like the two of them together. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you're right. I think Jelly could fit for Parr. And another person, going back really quickly, I think either for Bo or Cleves, Jenny Anydots. I think maybe more for Cleves, but Jenny Anydots, just like I said, based on personality types and the way that Xavier did, interpreted Jenny, I think that would be right up Cleves' alley. Definitely.
But
yeah, I think Jelly or Gus would be a good fit for Parr.
And who's your favorite that you cover of all the 6 queens? Do you have a favorite? Can't say? Okay.
It's kind of neck and neck because, of course, it kind of goes in waves.
Yeah.
But I think what I love about 6 as well, similar to Jellicle Ball, is we get to bring our own spin to these roles. Yeah. And so each role that I cover, they're all different facets of me. So, like my Aragon is, even though she's fierce, she has this regal presence about her. And so, so I kind of base it off of prominent female figures, especially like, let's say in whether it be pop culture or politics and stuff.
Yeah.
My Beau, she is kind of like the gremlin side, and a lot of my friends or people that know me know that side of me. And then in contrast, a lot of people know the nurturing, tender side, which is my Jane Seymour. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, I want to say right now in this current moment, it's neck and neck between Beau and Seymour, because Seymour is the first track that I learned, and so she'll always have a sweet spot in my heart. But with Beau, I can just let her rip. So
the 6 to Kat's parallels are extreme, because originally my kind of initial joke was I thought I watched a a singing competition on steroids, and it was like, here's a singing competition, like exactly the same thing. I remember before I even saw it, someone messaged me and goes, this is your Cats, like this is your version of Cats. So I think there's a lot to that. And then I also, from just a character standpoint, there is a lot of freedom that you as a performer get to kind of like, the core is there, but there's a lot of interpretation. And I've seen it many times. I've seen many different people do most of the roles, and it's always different. And I kind of love that about that. It's like, it's never exactly the same show.
No.
And that's really cool.
Yeah. And it's nice because we start off with a framework, especially when we jump into rehearsals and we start learning the show, and with certain marks or certain jokes that need to land and whatnot. But especially as being an alternate, you can see how each person puts their own special sauce or special zhuzh to each role that they play.
Yeah, it's such a fun show. I hope everyone goes to see it. It's also a tight, 75 minutes. So I always tell people, if you aren't like a 2.5 hour theater person, this is a show for you too.
Exactly. It's just 75, 80 minutes, in and out, no intermission. You get pop concert vibes. You're good to go.
And it's fun from start to finish.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's close ourselves out with our Cats rapid fire. So I'm going to go back to Cats. If you could go on to perform as any cat for one night, whether you could do it, whether it's the in cat costume or back at the Perelman, which track do you want to do for one night?
Rumple Teaser.
Okay. Fun. Who are your favorite and least favorite Cats characters by personality? It's like, which one would you love to hang out with and which one would bug you?
I would love to hang out, of course, with old Deuteronomy. I just want to, I feel like in the show, I didn't really get to connect with him that much. I connected with him from afar, but not up close and personal. So I would love to get coffee with him or sip on some milk.
Yeah.
As cats do with him. But a cat that I would hang out the least, maybe Cassandra.
Okay, Cassandra's a lot.
She beat out Syllabub, and Syllabub is my baby.
Yeah, Cassandra's a lot too. I didn't realize. So the first time I saw the second preview, and I'd had Emma on my show long before the show, and then I actually had her back for the Perelman. But she told me she was Skimbleshanks. And so I'm like, this character doesn't look like Skimbleshanks. Like, I didn't realize that she was playing Cassandra at first. Yeah. And so I was like, what is going on? And I finally opened the playbook. I'm like, oh, okay, this makes a lot more sense here. But her energy in that role is frantic.
She kills it. It's frantic though.
Yeah. And I was at the cabaret table. So at one point she's in my face and she's all over the place. Like, she really was, it was spectacular to watch.
Yeah, me and Syllabub would open because we watch that Virgin Vogue section together, and we would always be like, she's desperate. She's desperate for the win. So yeah, but it's frantic. You're right. So I think because of that frantic energy, Cassandra, I would try to keep my distance.
Okay. What's your favorite song in Cats?
Oh, I think Memories.
Memory. Okay.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
especially the way Chastity did it, just stunning.
Yeah,
I was always sobbing every night. I was a weeping mess in the bag.
Listen, this is not going to be good for my last answer, though. Okay, my last fun one I always ask, which member of Six, which queen do you think would be best in the ballroom scene, at the Jellicle ballroom scene?
Either Howie, Cleves or Howie, but probably Howie.
Yeah, I was thinking Catherine Howard. That's the way I lean. Just, there is a lot of depth to the character, but also the confidence and that kind of fit there. And then also the need for community. And so that was where I went to. So we're on the same page. And
I think she would slay, Vogue, doing Femme Vogue.
Yeah, definitely.
With the ponytail too,
Yeah. Okay. My most important question. I've argued at length that I don't think Grisbel's the right Jellicle choice. Your production really put a very hard spin on that, because I think that the story does lend itself a little bit better to Grisbel's a choice. But I want to hear, who are you, Jenny, picking as your Jellicle choice and why?
Okay. So I might be biased here once again, but I think Gus should have been the Jellicle choice.
All right.
especially, and my reasoning is because we also talked about it. I think in the workshop, if you're talking about the ballroom scene, and especially if you're talking about Junior LaBeija, who is ballroom royalty, like they have done so much and paved the way for us young cats and young folks to, be where we're at today. And I think, if they want to have this brand new life or be the Jellicle choice, it should have been Gus.
No arguments. I think Gus is the number 2 vote still behind Grisabella. And I think it's always been my choice. It's been my real choice. I have a funny version, but it's been my real choice because I do think, at least in the productions, like in cat stage production I'm used to, I don't want Grisabella. She's not ready to go. And I do think the same thing with Grisabella in the ballroom scene. It kind of roots down to where the Heaviside Layer is, like where is she going? And I think in the Perelman production, it doesn't feel like she's dying. It feels like she's going back into the scene, which is a very different answer than just dying and being reborn to being a new cat. So from that standpoint, I've always thought it was Gus because Gus needs it, and then send Gus back into a new life. But Junior, I think Junior makes it tough because I did sit right by Junior during that whole scene, and Junior is very, very clearly not ready to go. Like Junior is like ushering Grisabella in and like is still taking everything in. And I'm like, oh no, this is going to ruin the argument for me.
Yeah, no. In this production, Gus is pretty active in like, I guess, like conjuring the story, as I like to call it, especially the way that he maneuvers and, articulates things, especially in the movement. So I feel like Gus was essential in terms of conjuring the storyline. Yeah.
You said that you talked through this during the workshop. Was the Jellicle choice like discussion? Like, what did that sound like in the workshop?
I mean, I think in terms of cast, there wasn't too much. I mean, we briefly touched upon it when we were doing, like some dramaturgy work and kind of fleshing out the storyline a bit. But I think that was mainly a conversation maybe with the directors and the behind the table team. But no, I think we like just talked about, like basic ideas of how the story would possibly make sense with different Jellicle choices.
Yeah. I'm still to this day, I want a version where the audience votes. I don't think you could do that in the ballroom version, but I think you could definitely do it in like a regional production somewhere.
Yeah, who knows? I think also with the Jellicle Ball, it can show you that you can take the show and do it in a variety of ways. But it's been really cool to hear how the ballroom scene, it makes things so much clearer for storytelling purposes. So I think that was really special to be a part of and, to experience and witness.
Yeah, it got rid of every Cats hater that I knew that went to see it felt converted because they understood it, and it got rid of the stuff that I've always thought Cats for, like, there's a lot of depth to it. But if you're just watching it, it's confusing because the story's not like cleanly laid out for you. And so a lot of people who go in with this like, oh, that's weird, they're this, it just wasn't for me, and you kind of don't really know what you're watching. And then this version, this production, your production, told such a clear story that it kind of made it make sense while still staying very close to the source material. Like, it's still Cats at the end of the day. And so I loved it because it allowed, one, it gave me hope that maybe there is a world where my voting version can happen, because now there's a world where they're letting it to be tinkered with a little bit. But also I loved it because so many people that hated Cats or hated the concept of it walked out with a different appreciation for it, which is great for just, for theater in general and for people learning about the ballroom culture in general. Like, it's just opened people's eyes to a lot of things, which I thought was really healthy.
Yeah, I agree. And it's so funny. Like I said, I have quite a few friends who have been previous productions and iterations of Cats, and actually one of my good friends who was, I think, in the most recent Broadway revival, I met up with her afterwards and she was like, this is how Cats needs to be done. It makes so much sense, So to have someone who physically did the show say that to me or say that to the rest of the group was just mind-boggling. But I'm happy that it was so well received by, various parties.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that a lot of people got to see it. I hope more people get to see it. I hope it has another Jellicle life at some point because
Same
it deserves
here.
one. And that hopefully you can be part of that too if it does happen. But how, in the meantime, can people stay in touch with you on what you're doing? I'll link 6 as well so people can see you there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can definitely find me on Instagram. It's just my name, Jenny, JENNY .M as in mother, OLLET. 1 T, not 2. Many people mistake that.
Yeah.
But you can find me on Instagram. You can also I have a website, so you can definitely stay up to date on there. It's just my name there as well. And since I'm an alternate in 6, the best way to stay up to date on my performances is I have a broadcast channel. It's right under my profile link or my profile page. So just click on that. It's called Updates and Announcements, and you will get immediate notifications whenever I go on, especially last minute in the show.
Amazing. We'll link all of that so people can hopefully see you as one of the queens or in anything you're doing in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and reliving your Perelman and workshop and everything that went into that production and a little bit of 6 with me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really had a great time with you.
Amazing. Well, thank you. And thanks everyone else for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breaking out the cast atrophy. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Wrong Cat Died. Check out our website, thewrongcatdied.com.